Hey, what's up? It's Bond. Let's talk about Mass Effect. This is a tidbit. This is a rumor. Nothing big. But I will say I can add to the story some exclusive reporting. So today in my Discord, YouTube's, I believe, posted a Gaming Leaks and Rumors Reddit post that said that Mass Effect was ditching open world, according to Jez Corden, who's a writer for I think Windows Central. And I clicked on it and checked it out. And what it led to was a clip from a podcast that Jez is co-host on, where he talked about the next Mass Effect very briefly. And here's the clip.
For example, I've heard the Mass Effect is ditching open world and going back to its classic format. I don't know if that's accurate 100%, but it's an industry rumor. So like, if Mass Effect goes back to doing exactly what it's known for, like, they'll be celebrated for it.
And so obviously this is exciting in a way, right? Now, he does mention in that clip that this is like an industry rumor. So before I made this video, I reached out to him and said, hey, do you have any more context or any additional information about that quote? Because he was obviously talking more about Starfield in that part of their podcast. But obviously that little Mass Effect tidbit perked up my ears, and I'm sure many others. And so while other creators are probably going to make videos about this as well, I at least have what he responded to, and he basically reiterated it should be seen more as like an industry rumor right now, that he doesn't have a direct source. I think he meant from BioWare, where someone has told him that this is true, but that I think it's like a fourth in the line rumor. That doesn't mean it's not true, and it had to come from somewhere, right? So maybe it was completely made up, maybe it wasn't. If you just think about it logically, it shouldn't be that surprising if this is true. There's a lot of things that this would benefit the next Mass Effect and BioWare in, considering they're finishing up Dragon Age Dreadwolf right now, and that's obviously been this bloated, long, drawn-out process for development, and a big part of that is that making open world games is really, really hard, especially when those games are RPGs. So if the next Mass Effect does not have an open world and instead goes to, a more traditional Mass Effect style of gaming that we saw like in the trilogy, as opposed to in Andromeda, we could have probably a few hub worlds, and then you would have all of these side missions, main missions, and maybe they would introduce like bounties and things like that. And those would all take place in smaller, handcrafted areas. Now, some of them could be reused or reallocated. It doesn't necessarily mean that, if there were 150 activities you could do, they would each have their own area, but they could, or they could, go from there. So I think this isn't that surprising for multiple reasons. It being, they probably don't want the game after Dreadwolf to take another 6-7 years to come out. They're probably going to try to get this next Mass Effect out pretty quickly. I think it's why we know that there is still a pre-production team, probably a decent sized one, working on the Mass Effect game, despite the fact that Dreadwolf has needed to pull in so much help to get itself out in roughly the next year. They still seem dedicated to the pre-production of Mass Effect, and I can almost guarantee that's because they don't want the same mess that they're currently in. They want Dreadwolf to get out, and then they probably want to get Mass Effect going quick and finish quick. Now, obviously, we all have to hope that that doesn't mean a lack of quality. We're going to have to wait and see. But if you think about what they can do when we've seen the strengths of an engine like Unreal Engine 5 and the weaknesses of it, where it has struggled in some of the open world games that have been shown or that have released already, like Remnant 2, there is this thought that the Unreal Engine 5 can make a bunch of smaller areas look really, really good, make them pretty easy to design. All the lighting and all of that with their Lumen system would work really well in that context. They could get back to telling a little bit more of a linear story. Andromeda had these open world areas and they were so empty And even when they stuck a bunch of side mission content into them, they still just felt like empty places with side content. Well, this time we could have something more akin to like Mass Effect 3, where even the side missions and the extra missions had unique areas. They were small and they weren't, the most, crazy things in the world, but they still felt, unique and hand built. And they made even those little quick, 5 to 10 minute side missions feel special because they weren't just a 20-minute open world drive away like something you would have found in Andromeda. So again, this seems pretty much confirmed to be a rumor and not to be anything that we should take too seriously yet. But I can almost guarantee that in a couple years, when we are learning more about the actual Mass Effect game that is being developed and is being pre-produced right now, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this suggestion, industry rumor, whatever we want to call it, ends up being completely true. And honestly, I really hope it is. And that's that for this one. If you like this video, if you want more Mass Effect news as it comes out, if you want to hear more about my thoughts when these little rumors kick up, and especially here in a couple months when N7 Day happens, I'll do a ton of coverage for that. And I'm doing a gigantic, probably $300 or $400 giveaway during that time. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video if you did, leave me a comment down below with your thoughts, your questions, even if you just want to say hello. You can find me as Bond Diesel all over the place. You can check out my weekly gaming podcast, the Bonfire Podcast, which is on all podcast platforms and right here on YouTube. And if you want to support what I'm doing, check out patreon.com/BondDiesel. That's all I have for this one. So until next time.